Alright guys, we're back. We are going to start tearing apart not tearing apart, but removing the old master cylinder. And we're going to hopefully install the new one and the proportioning valve. So here we go, a little time lapse. Alright guys, I tried to flare this fitting, or I should say flare this old original brake line 3 times. Each time it split. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is rerun this hard line all the way down to the soft line that runs to the caliper. I wanted to just use the existing lines just out of convenience. The other one flared first try, no problems, but this one, I don't know if you can tell in the time lapse, but I tried 3 different times. So we're going to have to regroup and replace this whole line. Alright, sports fans, the master cylinder is in. This is a 7/8 bore master cylinder. I think it came from a late 70s Monza. I did some reading online and they said that it was a good setup for a disc drum setup. Ordered that. It's a Ray Bestos brand. And then we've got our Wiltwood proportioning valve down here. And the bracket. I went ahead and just bought a bracket. It mounts behind the master cylinder. Makes it really convenient to hang the proportioning valve. And then this is the hard line that I ended up needing to replace due to the old one splitting. So master cylinder is in, done, tested. So we're on to the next thing. Alright guys, I got the passenger side done. Everything's pulled off. We're just down to the bare spindle. Before I pulled the trigger on the brackets though, Core 3 makes a printout. You print it out, you can glue it or stick it to a piece of cardboard, cut along the edges, and then you stick it on the inside of your wheel, and it'll tell you essentially like, hey, if it's going to fit or if it's not going to fit. Now, I did that on my US Mag wheels. However, it was really, really close. So I was a little nervous, so I wanted to try something. Lucky enough for me, I have a spare C5 laying around. So what I did was, I'm going to flip the camera around and I'll show you how I test fit this. I took my US Mag wheel and tire and I bolted it up to my C5, obviously. I put all 5 lugs on to make sure that it was sitting square. And for the most part, other than the wheel weights, the wheel will turn. The pad hangs up a little bit. You can hear the wheel weights. So I don't know how familiar you are with the C5 brakes. They've got fins on the back. I'm probably going to have to do a little bit of modification to get it working with these wheels. But just in case you're wondering, this isn't a finished product because obviously this is still on the C5. But at this point in time, it looks like it'll work. One issue that I'm slightly concerned about is how close we are with the spoke in the inside of the caliper right here. Actually, technically the outside of the caliper right here. So these pads are worn. If you put a full pad on there, on both sides, a fresh pad, it should bring the edge of the caliper further out, closer to the spokes. So that might be an issue. We might have to run a small spacer or something. But for now, I just kind of wanted to show you guys an idea that I had. It may not work, may blow up in my face, but we'll find out. Good news, we finally got some parts. So we can start to put on our Core 3 kit. So this is the original drum spindle, and this kit from Core 3 will bolt directly to it, and it'll allow us to hang the C5 calipers on these brackets. Minutes later, one bolt in. So you can see caliper free floats. Clearance issue I'm worried about is once we have loaded caliper with pads, the front of the caliper here is what I'm worried about contacting my wheel. So probably going to do a little bit of machine work on the front, maybe the fins in the back. Not 100%. Obviously, we got to get the rotors and the spindles and all that set up before we can test fit the wheels. So, but at least this stage, we kind of know what we're doing. I'm going to take these back off, go ahead and get the brackets put on the other side. All right, guys, we test fit the Nova wheels on the C5, and everything fit. So now we have everything mounted up here, and it rotor fits, obviously, and the caliper and the bracket. Everything obviously fit on the C5. So it's impacting right up here on the wheel. So I've already replaced the studs with longer studs, and one wheel spacer you can't get the wheel flush. Two spacers, because I ordered a 2-pack, you can get the wheel flush, but when you run, so if you run like say this stud and this stud up, or lug, excuse me, up, it will not, the wheel won't turn. That's how tight the fit is. And then also don't forget, we still have wheel weights on the inside of the wheel we have to clear as well. So my thoughts are, I talked to a buddy of mine, my thoughts are to move the entire assembly closer to the center line of the hub. So to do that, we're going to have to modify the brackets. At this point, where I'm at, feel like I'm too far in to abandon the C5 brakes. And I'm also not really in a position. Also, there's no other wheels that I really want to put on the car right now. There's some really nice stuff out there, but it is out of the current budget. So for now, we have to figure out how to make these wheels and these calipers work. We're so close, and I'm hoping that the next modifying the brackets, will get us where we need to be to get the caliper in far enough to get the wheel on. Okay, if anyone asks, my 7-year-old traced this, not me. So here's the bracket. Right in the middle is basically the hub line. The hub is kind of over here. So idea is we are going to move each one of these holes about 5 millimeters over. So we're gonna drill this out, drill this one out, and we're gonna drill these out 5, and these out 5. So each hole is gonna move 5. It's gonna move 5 millimeters. Try to draw while I watch the camera. So this one essentially is gonna go this way. This one's gonna go this way. So by moving these just subtly, we should be able to pick up almost 10 millimeters of clearance on the back of the caliper. At least that's the theory. At this point, modifying these brackets is going to be the most cost-effective next step to try to resolve the situation with the brakes, the clearance. So I don't know if this is going to work, but it's worth a shot. Also, side note, just have to throw this in. I'm not a mechanic. I'm not a brake engineer. So me cutting brackets to cram C5 brakes on a car that's 50 years old may not be a good idea. So do your homework, do your research, kind of proceed at your own risk. Brakes are something pretty important. When you need them, you really need them. And so if this is something you don't feel comfortable doing, by all means, please do not follow me down this path of darkness. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and torch out the circles here. It's going to be an oblong circle when I'm done with a plasma cutter. I don't know how it's going to show up on the camera, but try to do a little time lapse. Alright, it's not pretty, but we get the bracket torched out. So the next thing will be a test fit. After the test fit, we will come back and backfill the backside of these holes. So on the left is my modified bracket, and on the right is the bracket as it comes from Core 3. So I widen the holes, I oblong the holes here with a plasma torch, and then I came back and I backfilled them with the old trusty flux welder. So here, if you set the brackets on top of each other before they mirrored each other, which you can see there, we've got about probably 3.5, maybe 2.5 inches or millimeters worth of movement. So it probably would have been fine just to bolt these up without backfilling, but just for some peace of mind, with the stress that the brakes are under, and knowing that if this bracket scooted, or if the caliper scooted on the bracket, it would then contact inside of the wheel. I just wanted a little bit of peace of mind. Took me a little time, These welds are pretty gross, but it's what you get with a flux. All right, guys. Calipers are painted, brackets are painted. Our Core 3 adapter brackets are painted as well. Don't worry about that. Just focus on the positive. Soft lines are on both sides. Master cylinder is in and plumbed with the Willwood proportioning valve. So now all that's left is to put everything back together on both sides. Fill the brake system, bleed it, and hopefully after that we'll be able to put the car on the ground and drive it. We're clear. It's tight, but we're clear. All right, folks. First test drive with the new C5 brakes. We'll see if it breaks or if it breaks. All right, so we survived the test drive. Thing seems to be pretty good. There is a little bit of pad drag, but I don't actually think it's the pad. I think it's the little retaining clip is rubbing the very outside diameter of the rotor. So I think I'm gonna just try to trim that little clip and see where we can go. You can tell it's a tight fit. See a little daylight through there. It's a tight fit, but all in all, I'm pretty happy with them. So pedal feel is pretty good. They're a little soft, but at the same point in time, I like a little travel. And then also, I adjusted the proportioning valve a little bit, made some hard stops. So you start with it all the way wide open. You make a couple hard stops, and as the vehicle loads the front suspension and unloads the rear, it'll lock up the brakes. So then you just adjust it down a little bit and then repeat the process. I think I did it about 4 times, and I think I got it to a point where I'm happy. So all in all, 6 months later, it's got some nice brakes on there. It's actually not a nightmare to drive. So I'm gonna go ahead and wash this thing up, and we'll put it back in the garage. And thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.